you're like me, you find the laboratory to be a place of wonder and excitement. But for an undergrad lab to run smoothly and safely, there are a number of safety protocols and lab procedures that we need to follow. In this video, first of all, we'll discuss general lab safety and practices, and then we will take some time to highlight what is required in preparing your lab notebook prior to coming to the lab. There are 4 safety items that need to be brought to every lab. You need to bring safety glasses or goggles, and these can be purchased from the OC bookstore. If you wear prescription glasses, you must wear safety glasses or goggles over your glasses. Unfortunately, no contacts are permitted. Some chemicals can dissolve the contacts onto the eyeball. You need to bring a lab coat. This too can be purchased from the OC bookstore. The lab coat needs to be long enough to reach down to your knees. Connected to this idea is that you must also be wearing long pants when you come to the lab. Basically, no skin below the armpits should be visible. After the lab, you store the lab coat in a large Ziploc bag, which we will provide. If you have long hair, you must tie up your hair with either an elastic or hairpins. Finally, you need to wear closed-toed shoes and closed-heeled shoes, such as running shoes. If any of these items are missing, you will not be permitted to attend the lab. Food and drink are also not permitted in the lab. If you would like to bring water to the lab, please keep it in the appropriate water drinking bottle, but we will ask you to either store it outside of the lab or in the appropriate storage bin. We request that students put their bags, knapsacks, and other personal items in the storage bins. This is so we can keep the aisles clear from any sort of tripping hazards. While in the lab, it is important to know the location of the fire extinguishers, eye wash and safety shower, and the fire blanket. All of these will be shown during the first in-class meeting. It is also important that you demonstrate safe handling and disposal of chemicals. Some solutions, like dilute aqueous salt solutions, can go down the drain, and some are harmful to the environment. They may contain heavy metals or contain organic solvents, and these need to be disposed of appropriately in marked waste containers. Instructions will be given each lab, but if you're not sure, then be sure to ask us how to dispose of the chemicals that we are using. If you dispense too much of a chemical, never return the excess to the original container. Rather, dispose of it appropriately. This avoids contamination of the stock solution or the original chemical. Cap the container when finished. This helps avoid spills, contamination, and possible reaction with air or water vapor in the air. Know the hazards of the chemicals you're using. Chemicals used in the workplace are organized into hazard classes according to a classification system called GHS, Globally Harmonized System, which is associated with WHMIS 2015. More information is found in your lab manual on these pages. GHS symbols represent different kinds of hazards. For example, toxic, flammable, and/or corrosive. Please familiarize yourself with these symbols as they are very important to your safety. More information about a particular chemical can be found by consulting an SDS, that is the safety data sheet. An example of a safety data sheet for acetone is found on these pages in your lab manual. These data sheets contain information about physical properties, toxicity, and safe handling. Our Lab Moodle site has a direct link to an online database of SDSs for all the chemicals used in our OC chemistry laboratories. You will be responsible to complete the safety assignment found on these pages of the lab manual. Your lab professor will provide you with a due date for this assignment. This assignment includes looking up information on an SDS for a chemical of your choosing. If you spill a chemical on your skin, wash with plenty of water. 15 minutes of rinsing is the recommended minimum. Inform your lab professor of any accidents or incidents, however minor they may seem. If you spill a chemical on the bench or floor, often this can be cleaned with simply water and paper towels. If it is a large amount of chemical, or a particularly hazardous chemical, a spill kit may need to be used. Please consult with the lab professor for assistance. Before leaving the lab, please wash all glassware with soap and water. Individual washing buckets will be available for each student. Glassware should also always be rinsed with DI water after a rinse with tap water. This will generally prevent any salt residues. One should also wash the lab bench with water. Finally, it is always good practice to wash your hands before leaving the lab. You may be unaware of any residues left on your skin. Let us say a few words about the lab notebooks. Information can be found on these pages. The notebooks must be spiral bound or hardcover. 3-hole binders and loose leaf paper are not acceptable. Save the first few pages for a table of contents, and this should be set up at the beginning of the semester. In the table of contents, be sure to list each experiment by name. Also include a page number and the date. Before each lab, read over the lab and do the pre-lab preparation. This will include an assignment and/or quiz and the preparation for your lab notebook. The following, written in ink, should be included: title and date. The purpose. This will be a brief introduction of what the experiment is to accomplish. Procedure. This should be a summary, written in past tense, of how the experiment will be done. It should not be a complete regurgitation of all the steps from the lab manual. This can be written either as a paragraph or in point form. You will also need to include a table of reagents. This will list the chemicals to be used and their hazardous properties. For example, in our first lab, we're using methanol, and its hazardous properties are that it's flammable and toxic. This information can be found in the appendix of the lab manual. You should also prepare any required data tables. You can use the tables provided in the lab manual as a guidance in preparing such tables. Note that all preparation and data collection should be done with a pen. Do not use an erasable pen. Do not use whiteout. All of this should be done before coming to the lab. This will be checked and signed by your instructor. If the lab book is not ready for the beginning of the lab, you will not be permitted to start the lab. The lab book will also be signed by your instructor at the end of the lab to ensure that the data have been properly recorded. Please also note that the lab book will be collected at the end of the semester and will be assessed to what degree the requirements outlined here and in the lab manual have been met. A grading rubric for the lab book can be found posted in your Moodle site. From this lab video, you can see there are many details related to lab safety and procedures. These details are not to make your life complicated or difficult, but rather they are to ensure the safety for yourself and others, to keep the labs running smoothly, and to maximize your learning. May you have a safe and enjoyable semester.